I never thought I'd be posting here, but life threw me a curveball. I'm 34M, my wife Sarah 31F, and we've been together for 6 years. While I was working overtime to save for her dream car, I accidentally overheard a conversation that revealed she was planning to cheat with the help of her best friend. What followed was months of manipulation, fake apologies, and shocking consequences that changed everything. I had always thought I knew my life, the predictable rhythm of it, like the hum of the machinery in the warehouse I managed. My name is Nathan, 35, and I sell and maintain industrial robotics. Think massive automated arms, conveyor belts, systems that make factories run like clockwork. People might call it dull, but to me it was stability, it was purpose. And lately, it was all I could cling to. I'd been at the company for a decade, starting in the trenches as a junior sales associate, and now I oversaw multiple regional accounts, traveling from plant to plant, dealing with crises that could cost clients thousands in lost production if not fixed immediately. There was pressure, yes, but there was also control, and I liked control. Then there was Elise, my wife of 4 years. Elise, 32, was a freelance interior designer and part-time Pilates instructor, the kind of person who radiated calm even when chaos surrounded her. We met at an art opening of all places. I remember it vividly. She was critiquing a painting I didn't understand, and I stumbled over some cliché remark about abstract art. Somehow, instead of rolling her eyes, she laughed. A warm, knowing laugh that made me feel both foolish and intrigued at the same time. We clicked instantly. Fast forward 6 years from that night and we were married, living in a modest house on a quiet suburban street, and for a while everything felt secure. We had planned carefully, prudently even. I insisted on a prenup early on because I'd seen friends and colleagues have their lives decimated financially by divorces that spiraled out of control. Elise had agreed without hesitation, which at the time I found comforting. She understood the principle. We were partners, but we were also individuals with histories and responsibilities that deserved protection. It wasn't romantic, but it was mature, and it worked, or so I thought. The first cracks were subtle. Elise drove a 2017 Honda Civic, a reliable little car, but it had begun to exhibit the occasional quirk, a stutter when starting on cold mornings, the faintest shiver through the steering wheel, the sporadic flicker of a dashboard light that made me wince. Not because I cared deeply about the car, but because I could hear her sigh in frustration each morning. She began mentioning, casually at first, that maybe it was time for something newer, more dependable. Nothing extravagant, just less worry. I had been swamped with work, covering colleagues on vacation, fixing last-minute emergencies, pulling 60-hour weeks, and I nodded along, telling her we'd figure it out, but mentally I began to map out how much I could save. 2 months ago, Elise's hints became clearer, almost pointed. She showed me listings for a sleek, pre-owned Volvo V60, something in the mid-$30,000 range, pristine condition. Not asking for the world, she said softly, the way she did when she wanted something to seem innocent, reasonable. Just something reliable. I nodded. We didn't have that kind of cash lying around. We'd been aggressively paying off the mortgage and my student loans, but I wanted to make her happy. She had been patient about finances for years, letting me juggle the numbers, never complaining, and I was willing. So I dove into overtime. Nights, weekends, even early mornings when other managers were still in bed. Every extra penny I earned went straight into a separate account in my mind, what I called the reliability fund. Elise seemed appreciative, smiling when I explained I had a surprise in store. Her gratitude was gentle, almost maternal. I thought I saw contentment in her eyes. And then there was Marissa, Elise's best friend. Divorced, mid-30s, a marketing manager with a sharp wit and easy charm. She often came over to keep Elise company when I was working late. They'd drink wine, watch shows, plan trips, chat endlessly. I assumed it was harmless, even wholesome. I prided myself on trust, on giving space to the people I cared about. But last Thursday, that night was different. I had finished a site inspection early. What should have taken 3 hours was done in 20 minutes. I drove home thinking I'd catch a moment to breathe, maybe grab a quick beer before dinner. When I pulled into the driveway, the garage door half open, I heard voices from the kitchen, Elise and Marissa, laughing softly. I leaned against the door frame for a second, listening, expecting casual chatter. Then Marissa said something about timing, and Elise replied with a careful, measured tone, talking about needing to be cautious with how and when she made her move. I froze. For a moment, I rationalized. Maybe this was about a surprise, a gift, some secret project they were planning. But the way Elise phrased it, the hesitation, the excitement, the calculating inflection, it sent a chill through me. Marissa agreed, saying Elise had been thinking about it for weeks, that maybe it was finally time to see what else was out there, that she deserved a chance to explore other options. The words hit me like a physical blow. Other options. Planning, logistics, contingency. My mind raced. Every scene I had watched in true crime shows, every story of betrayal my friends whispered about, it all clicked. This wasn't innocent, not remotely. I quietly set down my beer, retreated to my truck, and sat for 10 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, my heart pounding, my mind unraveling. Then I drove aimlessly, letting the streets pass beneath me while the truth sank in. When I returned home, I acted normal. Elise asked how my day went. I said fine. We ate in silence. The surface was calm, but beneath it, the current had shifted. Over the next few days, Elise became increasingly distant. She dropped hints about needing space, about feeling trapped in routine, about the need to explore emotional connections beyond our marriage. Each phrase was carefully crafted, soft, almost tender, but every word was a blade. I nodded, played the supportive husband, all the while feeling the walls of my world crumble silently. By Friday evening, she had finally articulated it fully. She said she felt married too young, that she needed clarity, that she loved me but wasn't sure if she was in love. The classic euphemism, the polished explanation designed to make betrayal seem noble, almost necessary. She suggested staying at Marissa's for a few weeks, a mental reset, a chance to see herself, to see if she truly wanted this life or someone else. I smiled softly, outwardly calm. Inside, everything was coiled like a spring. I asked directly if there was someone else. She said no, of course not. She just needed space. And then I smiled a little more, because I had already taken the steps she could never anticipate. Thursday morning, the divorce papers were drafted. The joint savings, everything I had earned in those grueling 2 months, was moved into a new account under my name alone. Thanks to the prenup, I was perfectly within my rights. By Sunday, Elise moved out, carrying her essentials, full of hopeful optimism, still thinking there was a chance. And I waited, quietly, patiently, for the next move in a game she hadn't realized I'd already won. Nathan had been trudging through another marathon of late shifts, the kind that blurred the lines between dusk and dawn. The fluorescent lights of the warehouse flickered above as he double-checked the conveyor systems, making sure nothing would jam overnight. He loved his work. There was a satisfying rhythm to fixing something that was broken, but tonight there was a gnawing unease he couldn't shake. Something had felt off ever since he noticed Sarah texting a little too quickly whenever he peeked at her phone. Not that he had snooped, he wasn't that type, but subtle patterns, subtle tones. They lingered like shadows at the edge of perception. By the time he parked his company truck outside their suburban home, the sky had turned a bruised shade of purple. Nathan was tired, bone-deep tired, but also oddly alert. As he approached the front door, he heard the faint hum of voices coming from the kitchen. It was Sarah, and then another voice, soft but assertive, overlapping hers. That wasn't just any voice, it was Monica, Sarah's best friend. Nathan froze, the keys in his hand suddenly feeling heavier than usual. He didn't want to intrude. Maybe they're planning something boring. Dinner for friends, a surprise party. He shook his head. His gut churned. The phrasing, the pauses. There was a cadence to their conversation, the kind that only comes when people are plotting something intimate, something personal. "You know, I just can't keep waiting," Sarah's voice floated through the open kitchen door. "Especially with Nathan working so much. I need to figure things out before I regret staying too long." A chill ran down Nathan's spine. Figure things out? That wasn't about dinner. That wasn't about trivia night. That was about someone else. And he was starting to understand exactly who. Monica's voice chimed in, calm but knowing. "You've been talking about this for weeks. You deserve to explore, Sarah. You can always come back if it doesn't work out." Nathan felt his chest tighten, his hands balled into fists, but he forced himself to stay in the shadows. He didn't want a confrontation. Not yet. The thought of anger, of pleading, of humiliation, it was too early. He needed a plan, a strategy, and time. Over the next few days, the tension coiled tighter. Sarah's behavior became a study in subtle manipulation. She'd mention needing space, hinting at her dissatisfaction while her words danced around the truth like a flame teasing a moth. "People can love each other," she said one night, voice soft, almost pleading, "and still need to explore connections. Don't you think?" Nathan listened, nodding politely, hiding the storm inside. Every fiber of his being screamed to react, to confront her, but he restrained himself. Patience, he told himself. Let her move. Let her show who she really is. By Friday, Sarah finally voiced her truth, the rehearsed lines spilling out as though she'd been practicing in the mirror. They'd married young, she needed time, she loved him, but she wasn't in love. She suggested staying with Monica for a few weeks to gain perspective. Nathan's heart hammered, not in anger, but in icy calculation. He smiled softly, almost kindly. "I understand," he said. And inside, he was already 3 steps ahead. While she was busy orchestrating her next adventure, Nathan quietly contacted a divorce attorney. He began transferring savings, making sure the money he had worked so hard to earn, every extra hour, every sleepless night, was out of reach. By the time Sarah officially moved out, Nathan had transformed his quiet fury into a shield of financial and legal protection. But it wasn't just about money, it was about control in the only way left to him, foresight. He let her go, let her believe she had room to maneuver, and all the while, he knew exactly where he stood, what the next moves would be, and how this story would end. Not with betrayal, but with clarity and consequence. Nathan had been calm all week, a mask of normalcy that barely concealed the storm within. Every morning he woke early, drove to the warehouse, and immersed himself in the mechanical hum of machines, the clatter of metal, the predictable rhythm of work. It was grounding, it was safe. And it was a stark contrast to the chaos swirling at home. Sunday arrived, quiet and deceptive. Sarah packed her things, clothes, her laptop, books, small tokens of a life she no longer seemed to want. She hugged him at the door, lingering just long enough to whisper that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Nathan smiled, the kind of soft, almost empathetic smile that gave no hint of what was coming. Monday morning, he went straight to the bank. Every penny of their shared savings, including the fund he had painstakingly built for a reliable car for her, was transferred to an account solely under his name. Legally, perfectly clean, thanks to the prenup they had agreed on years ago. Every dollar earned by his overtime, every late-night sacrifice was protected. By Tuesday, Nathan's attorney had the divorce papers ready. Simple, professional, irreconcilable differences. No accusations, no vindictiveness, just clarity. Meanwhile, Sarah's texts started trickling in, laced with hope and subtle manipulation, asking if he was ready to talk about their future. Nathan replied thoughtfully, as if he were considering reconciliation, and invited her over Thursday evening. She arrived, takeout in hand, radiant with nervous anticipation. She spoke first, detailing how her time away had supposedly made her realize what she truly wanted, how stepping back gave perspective, how sometimes absence illuminated the heart. Nathan listened carefully, nodding at intervals, letting her build the illusion of hope. And then he handed her the divorce papers. The transformation was immediate. Her eyes widened, shock overtaking every other emotion: confusion, anger, desperation. What does this mean?" she stammered, her carefully constructed composure crumbling in real time. Nathan's voice was calm, deliberate. "I think you know exactly what this means. You've been planning this while expecting me to wait, patiently." Sarah's defenses rose. You don't understand. I never... "You expected a safety net?" Nathan cut in softly. "A golden retriever waiting for you while you explored other options? I won't be that for you." Her gaze fell to the papers, and for a moment, a flicker of understanding passed through her eyes. Then the inevitable questions followed: money, access to the savings, how she would manage. Nathan explained. The account had been closed, all funds transferred, every ounce of overtime, every sleepless night was beyond her reach. Her face twisted, anger rising to desperation. "That's controlling! That's financial abuse!" Nathan's tone remained steady, almost clinical. "According to our agreement, that money was mine. You never contributed to that fund, and now you're free to navigate your own life." By 9 p.m. she left, taking her takeout, her dreams, and her illusions with her. Nathan stayed behind, the house eerily quiet, but his chest felt lighter. He had executed his plan not out of malice, but out of preservation. He had defended what was rightfully his, and ensured the next steps would unfold on his terms. The days that followed brought a cascade of chaos from her side. Texts, calls, minor attempts at manipulation. She claimed she needed financial support, tried to involve the mortgage company, even sent her best friend Monica to pretend to be a social worker asking neighbors questions. Nathan documented everything, but he didn't react emotionally. Every escalation only confirmed his decision. Then came the grand finale. An open front door, keys left on the counter, no note, no apology. Nathan called the police, who confirmed no forced entry. They suggested a security camera, which he promptly installed. Nathan had anticipated every move, but even he couldn't have predicted the audacity or creativity with which she tried to manipulate reality. Through it all, Nathan's actions were consistent, calm, strategic, measured. He did not let guilt or hope cloud his judgment. He had uncovered the plan, acted decisively, and ensured his life would not be hijacked by betrayal or manipulation. And as he sat in the quiet of his home, watching the footage from his new cameras, he realized something profound. Sometimes the most powerful action is restraint combined with preparation. Sarah and Monica's schemes unraveled on their own, and Nathan didn't have to lift a finger beyond setting boundaries and letting the truth play itself out. The lesson was clear. Clarity and foresight could dismantle even the most carefully orchestrated deception, and in the end, integrity and calm resolve were the most potent forms of self-defense. The days after Sarah left were strangely quiet, almost surreal. Nathan woke up to a house that felt both foreign and liberating. The hum of the refrigerator, the occasional creak of the floorboards, even the ticking of the clock on the wall, all of it felt like a small rebellion against chaos, a reminder that life continued even after betrayal. He moved through his routine deliberately, keeping himself grounded. Coffee in the morning, a quick review of emails, and then heading to the warehouse to dive into machinery diagnostics. The predictability of it all was almost therapeutic. Sarah's attempts to manipulate the situation didn't stop immediately. There were emails, cryptic text messages, even calls at odd hours, each dripping with a mixture of guilt, frustration, and desperate pleading. Nathan read them carefully but did not respond emotionally. Each message was a test, an attempt to see if he would falter, if the vestiges of his old feelings would make him reconsider. But he had built a shield, one crafted from logic, foresight, and the painful lessons of overhearing that fateful conversation weeks ago. The divorce process trudged forward slowly. Lawyers exchanged documents, requests were filed, and formal meetings punctuated the otherwise quiet days. Nathan kept meticulous notes, ensuring every communication, every financial transaction, and every attempted maneuver by Sarah was documented. When she attempted to involve the mortgage company, claiming she needed clarity about her options, Nathan calmly supplied proof that she was not authorized to act on his behalf. When Monica tried to involve neighbors and masquerade as a social worker, he recorded her behavior but refrained from overreacting. Every step was deliberate. Amid the legal battles, Nathan also discovered a personal clarity he hadn't anticipated. There was a freedom in decisively removing someone from a chapter of your life who had demonstrated they could not respect the foundation of your relationship. He reflected on their 6 years together, the laughter, the arguments, the shared plans, and realized that the betrayal did not erase the past, but it recontextualized it. He could honor what had been without being held hostage by what had become. Then came the final confrontation, not by argument but by consequence. Sarah showed up one last time, her demeanor unsteady, her voice a mix of shame and fear. She pleaded, offering explanations, apologies, promises, even tears, hoping to negotiate a second chance. Nathan listened, allowing her to spill every regret, every justification, every fantasy that had led her to believe she could explore other people while keeping him as a fallback. When she finished, Nathan spoke, calm and unwavering. "I understand everything you're saying, and I'm glad you've finally admitted it. But your choices, the planning, the deceit, it doesn't just vanish because you feel remorse now. You've created consequences, and those consequences are yours to live with." Sarah's face fell. She realized that the safety net she had assumed existed, the forgiveness, the patience, the ready return to her old life, was gone. For the first time, she faced the stark reality that Nathan would not bend for her convenience. He had acted decisively, ethically, and within his rights. She could not manipulate or plead her way back. Nathan went on. "This is not about revenge. It's about boundaries. You planned to betray a life we built together. I've simply acknowledged that and acted to protect myself. What you do now, how you rebuild, that's on you. I won't hinder you. I won't finance your choices, but I won't block your path either." And with that, she left. There were no dramatic gestures, no shouted words, no lingering uncertainty. Just the sound of the door closing and a quiet that felt final, yet oddly comforting. In the weeks that followed, Nathan settled into a new rhythm. He began projects around the house he had postponed for years. He invested time in hobbies he had neglected, small adventures that reminded him life was not paused, even in the aftermath of emotional upheaval. Each day reinforced a lesson. Personal integrity, decisiveness, and calm foresight were more valuable than clinging to relationships that no longer honored mutual respect. The legal proceedings concluded with clarity. The prenup held, the divorce was finalized, and each party retained what they had brought into the marriage. No lingering debts, no financial manipulation, just a clean division of assets. Nathan's careful planning meant he had preserved the fruits of his labor, the car fund, the savings, the sense of autonomy he had fought to protect. Monica reached out one final time, attempting to mediate or justify past actions, but Nathan responded with the same calm pragmatism. "Your friend made her choices. I'm not responsible for her mistakes. Help her if you wish, but do not attempt to use me as leverage." By the time the dust settled, Nathan was alone, but not lonely. He had learned to trust his judgment, to act with intention, and to value his own well-being above the manipulations of others. He understood the depth of betrayal, yes, but also the power of clarity and decisive action. Looking back, he recognized the lessons embedded in the chaos. The hurt, the planning, the deceit, they were all reminders of the importance of foresight, observation, and adherence to one's principles. And for Nathan, the ultimate victory wasn't in punishment or revenge. It was in reclaiming control of his life, his finances, and his emotional state. Life moved forward, slowly at first, then with a rhythm that felt steady and reassuring. And while the memories of Sarah, Monica, and the months of betrayal lingered, Nathan's focus remained on the future, grounded in the knowledge that he had acted with integrity, decisively, and without compromise. In the quiet moments, Nathan sometimes reflected on the strange humor life had shown him. That moment of overhearing, which had seemed like a cruel twist of fate, had ultimately been the catalyst for his empowerment. He didn't gloat, he didn't revel in punishment. He simply moved forward, stronger, wiser, and with the kind of clarity only gained through navigating true betrayal. And in that clarity, he found peace.